All right, we are back. There we go. I had to sit there and make sure you were full size there for a minute. Okay, so it has been a while.
It has been a
We've had
while.
a crazy couple weeks over here.
It's been one thing right after the next, but it's been some good stuff.
Yeah, I'd say, I guess I'm officially an uncle now, which is exciting.
Yep. And that was grandchild number three for me. So I just keep getting older and older.
Yeah, give it give it a little bit longer. Maybe you'll have number 4 and 5 here. Who knows? Cat's already going on about how, oh, the baby's so small, we don't have a baby anymore.
Okay, so but you got no new news to share yet, right?
Not yet. We did have a somewhat of a little scare like a week, and then we were like, okay, no, it's actually nothing. It's nothing. Yeah, no, it seems like, of course, you know, Megan gave birth and all that stuff, and then a couple of Kat's friends actually just recently gave birth as well, and so she's just seeing tons of babies everywhere, and is already just kind of like, Sarah's no longer a baby anymore, is she? She's old now.
And
And of course, Junior's
you,
old as can be now. Of course, now he's riding a scooter to the park and stuff like that. So,
even babies on her side of the family coming around too.
yeah. This Friday is when they plan to induce. So, she'll be they'll have another cousin on the way.
The spring for babies.
Yeah, it's weird thinking that our kids are the older cousins. Like, I'm not sure where you and mom were, but I really did not expect to be the first one to have kids. To be perfectly honest. Especially when you look at maybe my track record when it came to dating in high school and early after, like it.
Well, you remember I came along a little bit late. I was the oops baby, so I had nephews. I was an uncle at age 12, and so I kind of helped raise my nephews and nieces.
You say that now, and people are just going to assume like there was a teen pregnancy somewhere involved, but no, it's just you were
No,
that far apart from your.
I was that far apart.
All right, well, so speaking of, okay, so last week, and every time we keep wanting to do these things, it's like, all right, so news starts popping up, then we get a little busy. Unfortunately, we can't hop on, but we had the trials have been going on over in New York, and of course, there's been a bunch of BS over there, and that has been shown completely now by the fact that even CNN has started to actually turn on it. Have you seen like some of the stuff CNN has been saying here?
Yeah, yeah. It's actually I didn't think we'd see it. I thought they would just keep gaslighting. So if it's so bad that they've turned off the gas lamp, then it must be pretty bad.
It's pretty crazy because up to this point, they've been going on and on about how, oh, this is going to be it for Trump. This New York case, open and shut case, going to be, even though the fact of, was it, statutes of
It's not even a
limitation
crime.
is already been up. There's no underlining crime actually being shown. It's a complete mess. It makes no sense. Even if he is found guilty, an appeals court will throw it out instantly, right? This is a simple case of the process is the punishment. It's just to stop him from campaigning. But now I really think of what it is the fact of you have him going out through places like the Bronx and hearing people chant, USA, USA
or
outside.
or getting tens of thousands, depending on which news outlet you want to believe, as much as 100 in New Jersey.
Oh, I know that was crazy to see too, and they were saying it could be just as big as Obama's back in 2008, which is, I'm not sure if it is as big as that, but the fact it's even comparable and in New Jersey of all places,
Yeah.
that says
Well, and this
something.
time At this time, it wasn't the Trump team giving the numbers. It was the New Jersey officials that run the area that were giving some of the numbers. So maybe they're a little more reliable.
But I mean, let's face it, throughout this process, Trump's been in New York and New Jersey quite a bit, hasn't been able to campaign. Yet, of course, being Trump, he's found a way to still turn it almost to his favor. Of course, going out constantly, talking to the press, ranting about how, of course, this is a Banana Republic style prosecution, which it totally is, obviously. Again, no underlying crime, and the statute of limitations for that crime is already up. And Hillary Clinton, who was found to also have campaign finance violations, got charged with, and actually was found guilty, only had like $3,500 fine, and that was it. It was tossed out after that. So he's 100% right on that. But he's getting so much media attention now, and again, I'm not saying he's going to win New York, obviously. I'm not saying that at all. But the fact he's having this much support in an area like New York and people coming out and supporting him, and meanwhile, Biden is over at these, fundraiser events in New York, having protesters yell at him, calling him like Genocide Joe and stuff like that. So Trump in New York City is having people chant his name, having people chant USA. Biden in New York City is getting booed nonstop. And so
from the left.
From the left.
That's the stupid part. The one thing I agree with Joe on, and that's what he's getting attacked for.
Well, you agree with them sending the money over, or you agreeing with them just support in general?
Supporting our one and only major ally in that part of the world. I don't disagree with that stance, but the fact that his stance has been so wishy-washy, then there should be people on our side that are screaming at him too for a whole different reason.
Oh, I know. The hard part is, it's one of those
he's
things.
Talking out of both sides of his mouth. You can't support Iran on one side and then withhold the weapons and things that Israel needs, because I'm pretty sure we had a president that was impeached for that very thing, withholding what was promised to a certain country that we were supposed to be helping and supporting. I'm pretty sure there was another president. I don't remember his name. It may have
so long ago. I know
there was another one. Yeah, it was so long ago. But that's the kind of crap we're putting up with. Now, the genius thing that Trump did is he's got all of his other political supporters. So you've got Byron Donalds, you've got Vivek, you've got all these people just going to court every day now, and there's a different group of them just out there just laying it on thick. He can't talk, but they're talking, and even though all the news outlets aren't carrying what they're saying, it's good to see them rally around each other. So, I like seeing them rally around each other. Apparently, Mitt Romney doesn't. He said he apparently doesn't like seeing that at all.
So actually, I was going to ask you about that. So is this basically tryouts at this point? Like everyone goes down there and has their moment in the media to see how they do in front of the cameras, and then afterwards they can decide, okay, who's going to be my VP, who's going to be in cabinet positions. Because it kind of feels like it. Because like each and every day they do this, is like, all right, and next up is this person, and it's like a new person. It feels almost like tryouts here.
That's what everybody keeps saying. But like when you've got Gates and MTG and Boebert and some of those folks, I don't think they're seriously being considered for VP.
Oh, no.
I think there's a cohort of actual supporters who see the process of being rigged and see the process of being a banana republic, because that's what it is, and they're just going to stand up. But if you remember the last time around, his VP pick of Pence just came completely out of nowhere. So you never know. You never know what he's going to do.
Well, it's funny because obviously I still know a few people who are in the political world pretty heavily. And I remember I was talking to one that lives over near Greenville. And he's been saying to almost everyone he's around has still been talking about the fact. And you've started seeing this story pop up, I think, a little bit in the media now. Marco Rubio is apparently on the short list. And I'm not just, and the thing is, at first I heard it from a couple like side sites, and I was kind of like, okay, they're just spitballing here, I guess. But I'm now hearing it from people who I know who are actually in that world, who are, I'm not going to say they themselves have those personal connections, but they know people who have those personal connections. So whether or not he ends up becoming the VP pick, I don't know. But when this person in particular tells me that dude's on the short list, I feel pretty confident he's probably on the short list. So I wonder how many other people who we haven't heard of in a while, might be being considered. And for all we know, it's gonna be like, what was the name? Like Bobby Jindal or whatever, Louisiana. What was that dude's name again?
Yeah, that was him. But they are also talking up Nikki again to try to get her daughters to come on board.
It'll get the Koch brothers on board, I guess.
Well, you better open up your border stance if you want to get the Koch brothers on board. you gotta let the illegals in and keep the guns away if you want to join those guys.
Dude, listen, there were so many presentations I gave on behalf of some of those Koch brothers organizations back when I worked for nonprofit, political organizations, and I had to try to sell the whole thing of we can't just deport all of them, guys. I had to sell that thing over and over. It was so frustrating. But I sold it dang well, okay? By the end of it, people were more than happy to hear me out, which is, I'm not sure if it's a good thing, to be honest.
You're a typical political animal selling your soul.
I was selling my soul. Hey, I'm not there anymore. Now I can just say whatever I want to say because, and so what if I get 300 hate mail messages?
Yeah, you can't really say what you want to say. We're on YouTube.
Yeah, I guess if I said what I really thought, we would. I'm not sure if we would even be on Rumble, to be perfectly honest. I might like pushing boundaries over there.
We can say exactly what the tech establishment will allow us to say, and we're damn proud of it.
It is pretty amazing. But real quick, I did want to pull this up because this is just to kind of give people an idea just how far things have fallen. This is just a quick clip of CNN talking about it, and just listen to the way they're discussing this because it's pretty telling.
I don't think I've ever seen a star cooperating witness get his knees chopped out quite as clearly and dramatically as what just happened with Michael Cohen. I've certainly seen very effective cross-examinations of cooperating witnesses. I've seen aspects of their story cut into and called into question, but this goes to the heart of the allegation here, that phone call on October 24th, and it looks to the jury and to Anderson Cooper and Kara Scannell and Judge George Grasso, who were all in the courthouse, that was a devastating moment. I don't think I've ever seen a star.
So I realize that we're actually not screen sharing to you right now, so you can't exactly hear it. But you can see the quote up there. You know, again, never seeing a star witness get his knees chopped out as clearly and dramatically as that. I mean, that is... Again, Anderson Cooper is out here saying the same stuff right now. Just all of CNN.
Yeah, that was a clip I saw.
Yeah, a good amount of MSNBC is also saying similar stuff. And not only that, but now people are just kind of clowning on the whole trial in the first place. I'm not sure if you saw this, but someone went by they went by the area and had a U-Haul filled with what's the best way to put this? Balloons that look a certain way with faces of the district attorney on there. And the judge as well. So, I mean, this whole thing is obviously a sham at this point. How do you...
There's NYPD coming to the rescue.
Of course, of course. Now, I like how they actually didn't manage to shut it, too. You talk about inept. I'm just going to put that out there. I mean, how many times have I had to drive a U-Haul before? It's not that hard. Come on, guys. The guy picking them up. Who wants to be the guy picking those up? I'm just saying. Oh, man. Very proud of himself there.
He just needs to go around the corner to the protest with the hats that were the pink hats. Matt,
oh, yeah, they're zooming in on a lot more of that stuff. Okay, yeah. I'm not sure if how that those type of images work on YouTube or if they're allowed. I guess I'll find out soon. But I think they're...
Well, they allow the pink hats to run free.
Listen, there's stuff on YouTube far worse than that, but who knows? Either way, the whole thing is a clown show of clown shows at this point. It is really funny to see. It's amazing seeing Trump, because here's the thing. Would any other politician besides Trump be able to turn this around in the way he has? I'm sorry, I really don't think any other politician could do what Trump is doing right now when it comes to this trial.
No other politician would have survived the slings that came at him in 2016.
And listen, there's politicians who I think would be a far better president than Trump, who I say would not be able to handle this.
Maybe Willie in the early 90s, because he was dodging a lot of things. So maybe he could have figured a way out of it, but it's just been insane that he can say and do the things he can say and do, and support grows.
Well, my thing I'm wondering here is how much longer they want to keep dragging this out, because right now, the Stormy Daniels witness didn't work out, obviously, right? I mean, you're going to take the word of a prostitute at this point? Like, I mean, come on. And she literally basically said, she said multiple times that she's had sex with people for money, like that. And come on, like,
and how many multiple times did she say there was nothing to it? It was all a lie. There was no relationship. It wasn't coerced. I mean, all those times. And then the key witness today perjured himself at least twice.
Yes. Will he be held accountable for that? Of course not.
He's not.
He won't be held
I mean,
accountable for that. Yeah, of course, Trump is
not some
going through
hardened.
this.
He's not some hardened criminal like Navarro. I mean, come on.
Well, it's funny because as much as they're going after Trump here, I'm going to pull this up because I didn't have this list at first, but this there was already a case in New York. Here we go. Pull this up right here. So, a teen that shot 26 shots from an AR-15 at a car released on bail. Around, I believe this was also around New York as well. So people go around and basically, and this, every time someone goes out with like an AR-15 and shoots a bunch of shots at someone, it's basically considered a mass shooting event, and of course all over every headline. Have you even heard this story at all?
Nope.
No one has. And the dude's released on bail. He was walking around with the AR-15 shooting at people in cars. And he's just, whoop, no, out on bail. Meanwhile, Trump, of course, he can't go to the hearing at the Supreme Court, or else he'll be held in contempt of court. Yet this person can, of course, be released on bail, no problem. That is the legal system we are at today, which is really depressing to see. God, what was that? What was it called? Like tyranny through anarchy, almost, where they just kind of pick and choose who you want to prosecute, and you're trying to make things absolutely insane in order to drive people insane, almost.
They're trying to get it started.
Now, here's gonna be a real question though: are they gonna be able to get the riots that basically were going on? Of course, that helped them. Let's face it; it probably did help them out slightly during the elections because people wanted that return to normalcy. Are they going to get them back out and doing stuff again? Because I know some people say they already are out doing stuff at college campuses, but I wouldn't really consider them pro-Biden. I think this is like
And the summertime is here, so it won't be the summer of love on the campuses because they all go home back to their basements in the summertime. So we'll see which group comes up and takes over this summer of love. But I wouldn't be shocked if there's not some group that comes back around. And maybe it's still Palestine. I don't know. But they don't seem to be getting traction. The frat boys stood up to them and ran them away from a lot of places.
Listen, I know you basically would almost root for Hamas over Chapel Hill, but you have to give it to Chapel Hill. Those guys over there taking care of the American flag.
Yep. That's the only thing I've ever seen out of that crap hole that I'll agree with. It's a leftist cesspool for the most part, and yet those guys stood up and protected the flag. So
here's the thing, though: Gen Z men have gone really far right in a lot of ways. Like they are far more on the right side than the millennial generation was by like a wide margin. Now, Gen Z women are far more onto the left than my generation was, unfortunately, which shows that what the Democrats have done and trying to, use these wedge issues to kind of split people apart has kind of worked. But the good part is
right now, their only issue is abortion.
I know
that's their only issue, and liberal white women, they're only, and they'll never lose black women, I don't think. But now liberal white women and abortion, that's the only winning play they've got.
And it doesn't matter how far they go with that either. I mean, you had the ex-governor of Virginia where he was talking about, killing children after they were born. And that somehow wasn't that much of a national news story. Like, it got a little bit of play on stuff like Fox, but how is that not just on every single just outlet there is across the country that a governor of, let's face it, Virginia is a well-respected state of Virginia.
Forget the state, a governor who can't remember if he was the one in the KKK outfit or the blackface.
Well, I mean, we got a president who gave the eulogy for was a grand wizard of the KKK and called him a great mentor and very influential on his life. And what do you know? He's the non-racist candidate. The person who didn't want his son growing up in a racial jungle when it came to having, black kids at his school and stuff like that.
I know, but still, you look at your own yearbook and can't remember if you were the one wearing the KKK outfit or the one wearing the blackface. Come on. And he gets away with that. and then gets away with saying we should have abortion after birth. I mean, come on.
Okay, real quick.
That's the difference between the left and the right.
Was he in the KK outfit or blackface? Because obviously, whatever one he thinks is worse is the one he's probably in. I'm assuming. So I'm guessing KKK hood.
I mean, don't you think he would have copped to it because a certain prime minister got away with it without any repercussions for the blackface side?
He still does and it may not be straight blackface, but that dude does what's considered cultural appropriation all the time. Like he goes to India in the full outfit and everything. And it's funny because you see all these people walk around him in just normal suits, and he's over there like it's like if a guy walked over to one of these border towns in a sombrero and a poncho. Like it's hysterical almost to watch. But he thinks he's doing he like all leftists. He thinks that he's doing something like this grand statement of, oh, look at me, I'm so accepting of others' cultures, even though, of course, he then dismisses his own. But, I'm sorry, according to him, Canada doesn't have their own culture, so.
Oh, yeah. Well, the one that they're adopting through him is just the absolute worst. So now their culture is one that says, you don't feel good today? Have you thought about assisted suicide?
Was it the 4th leading cause of death in Canada right now? I mean,
but you brought up the sombrero. Obviously, you had to have saw the video where they were out there in the sombrero and the poncho, asking white lefties, "Is this cultural appropriation?"
Yeah.
Yeah. And then they went and asked a bunch of Mexican dudes, and they're like, "No, I love it. That's a great act."
Where's that joke of, if I assume that a Mexican likes tequila, all the white leftists are going to sit there and give me crap. If I go or tell the guy doing my lawn work, hey, do you want some tequila? He isn't going to be offended. He's going to be like, what brand? But it is, you talk about Canada there, though. I mean, this is a prime minister who actually said his ideal form of government is China because of how easily they can get stuff done. So is it any surprise when they're doing what they're doing? I mean, I'm surprised at this point they haven't just arrested all their political opposition at this point and just did what Ukraine did and say it's illegal to be anything other than us.
Ukraine, why not New York? Georgia, DC.
That's true.
We're doing it here. But yeah, so this back to Canada for just a second. Do you think they're finally going to smarten up and oust him in this upcoming round of Canadian elections?
I mean, to be honest, do you trust the Canadian elections? I mean, I have a hard time trusting most elections, to be honest. But maybe, but I doubt it. I don't really understand their system, how it exactly works. So I'm not sure how that goes. I know in many cases in Canada you can get into office even while having only 30% support, basically, just by how they run their elections. So I'm really not sure because I just don't know what he needs to win. But
I'm just waiting for him to come out like a lumberjack because he's okay.
I'm not sure if I understand that reference.
Monty Python.
Oh, okay.
That was a Canadian lumberjack.
It's been a while. Okay, it's been a while.
Who just happened to wear women's underwear.
Either way, I mean, obviously,
this prime minister we keep referencing, he does suspiciously look a lot like Fidel Castro. What's up with that?
I was just about to say Castro's son over there. Is it any wonder? I mean, it seems like a lot of places I know in Europe are kind of waking up to the issue of immigration, at least, and actually really starting to step up a bit. So maybe Canada will, I don't know. But I mean, let's face it, there is a difference in cultures of countries, and this plays a massive important part on kind of laws that get instituted. So in America, the culture used to be, when on our founding, we put up the middle finger and shot a bunch of people to obtain our freedom as a country. Canada said, oh, I'm sorry to ask this, but can we please be free from y'all? They literally asked for their freedom and were very polite about the whole thing. So you have a country of people who obtained, their sovereignty through just being kind about it. So I'm not exactly sure if their descendants are the kind of people who are going to say, hey, we have to take this country back no matter what the cost. We must take this country back. Because, I'm more comfortable saying America will turn a new leaf than Canada will overall.
So we had, you're saying that some of the immigration things in Europe are coming up, and people are starting to stand up. They're gonna have to. I was trying to look for the exact stat, but uh, this week was the baby week. The week before that was the board meeting week. But we had a speaker who's a Muslim, who was born Muslim. Grandfather was an imam, and he converted as a young man to Christianity. And in Europe right now, the way things are tracking, it's going to be like three of every five births are going to be Muslim in certain parts of Europe that they're trying to work through. And that's the population that's growing. So the average is like 2.6, almost 3 children per family, whereas the natives are less than 2. And so we can sit here and argue, oh, there's no replacement theory, there's none of all that's just a bunch of whatever, but it's happening. It's empirically happening.
We can call it something else. We can call it colonialism. I mean, that is by definition what's happening. They're being given special treatment under the law that the native population does not possess. As in England, if you insult them, you'll be arrested. But of course, if they insult you, oh, no issue. So you're having that. They're taking over the cultural institutions, which again, big part of colonialism, as well as, of course, starting to replace in births at least the native population. This is the new form of colonialism. Now, what scares me about this more than anything else is last time the Muslims started colonizing a lot of Europe, what happened? I have a guess.
Well, there was a holy war that fought.
That's it. There was the Crusades, and everyone, Obama went up there and said, "Oh, Christianity is innocent." They had the Crusades. Listen, there's things you can criticize Christians over. I'm 100% open to that. The Crusades were 100% justified, and anyone who says otherwise has no idea what was going on around that time. You had massive, the massive Muslim caliphate coming in, conquering almost all of Spain, conquering into Italy, conquering into France, and then of course they were like, "Okay, we need to." They're slaughtering our people, enslaving our children. And again, don't forget, there was more white slaves going over to Africa than any other slave trade ever in recorded history. That is the biggest slave trade that ever happened. And most of it happened under the caliphate as well. So what did they do? Crusade had to come through. A lot of people died. Yes, it was very vicious, as holy wars are going to be probably, in any case.
It doesn't have to be a holy war. Every war should be vicious. It's a war.
Yeah, but there was some stuff in the Crusades that were pretty. It might make Sherman blush at times when you look at some of the things they might have done. But what do you expect, right? And this is literally at that point in time, they really thought this might be it for Christianity. Like their backs were against the wall. They were just getting it handed to them by the caliphate at that point. Just over and over and over. And so, of course, when they fight back, they fought back with everything they had. And, of course, the Pope did that classic thing of saying, oh, by the way, any sins you commit during the Holy War will be completely forgiven because for the sake of a Holy War. I'm not exactly sure if I agree with that stance. But it worked to get people to start coming in there. And, of course, they pillaged, they burned, they destroyed. They pushed the Muslims out of Europe and pushed them back into the Middle East. And then, of course, when they tried to actually go and conquer into the Middle East, it didn't really go but so well overall. But they did all right. Either way, this is kind of what what we have happening now. And I don't want, obviously, a giant holy war to take place. But I'm really nervous that it's getting to a point over there where what alternatives do they really have? I don't know how you mass deport that. They have a bigger issue when it comes to immigration than we have here, probably. When you really look at it, I really think they might have a bigger issue over there than we have. And I do not know how you deport these people en masse to get them out of your country, because they have to leave. There is no alternative here. They cannot stay in these countries, and these countries remain Western. It cannot happen. So even if they do start taking over, it's going to get bad. It's going to get really, really bad. And I'm worried about what that's going to entail.
Well, you've already explained what happened historically.
I don't want that to happen again.
But as a culture, we've forgotten. And when you forget history, what are we doomed to do?
That's true. I mean, I guess there's been some cases apparently in Ireland where people are getting a bit violent when it comes to the immigrants over there, which, I mean, if anyone still retains some amount of, like, I guess you'd call it ethnic pride, I guess the Irish would definitely be it. So maybe it starts with the Irish. I don't know. But it's a scary situation because there's no way some amount of violence does not happen during it, no matter which way it goes. It will become violent in some way or another. It's just how violent will it be? And that's the scary part about it. I think over here, we can actually still do things to avoid that, luckily, but I'm not sure if they can.
Tell the state of Minnesota, do you think you really can?
I still think we can here. And the reason...
Or do you think your state would adopt a Muslim flag just like they just did?
I don't know. I mean, North Carolina's kind of mixed, so who knows? But that's the thing. We don't have a massive...
It didn't happen there overnight. It didn't happen there overnight. And let's bring it back full circle to these college protests. They don't want Western values. They want to allow it to crumble. And so from the inside, we've got active participants trying to crumble the West from the inside. And it's not just the immigrants that are doing it. It's the idiot leftists who are on their side. And it's permeated throughout this entire country. There are pockets everywhere, all 50 states.
So the good part that we have is that we do have pockets of conservative values all across the country as well. And more importantly, what we have that Europe doesn't is a Second Amendment. And the big problem that Europe is having, of course, I mean, you can watch these videos of people literally just walking into other people's houses, taking stuff and leaving. Or trying to abduct people or trying to assault them. I mean, just tons of cases like this.
I can go to New York. I can go to New York and see people squatting and taking houses and legally taking their home.
But here's the thing. There's also, if you try that in Florida, what's going to happen? So I'm not saying it's going to be all 50 states are going to be taken care of here. I'm saying that there will still probably be enough pockets throughout the country that I think we can still handle it. Again, mostly because we have the Second Amendment. If we have people coming in here and start trying to do things illegally that harms the citizens here have the right to defend themselves. Well, over there, of course, they don't.
We do now. Do you trust the current electorate to maintain and keep it?
No, and you know what? There's a situation that kind of gives me some hope. So, of course, Florida, you have some of the laws that they've been passing, right? Where it's like if you're protesting in the streets, yes, you can keep on driving. Great law. Every state should have it. But we just had a case in Texas. I'm not sure if you remember this case a while back. Let me pull this up real quick.
The Daniel Perry case?
The Daniel Perry case, yes. I'm going to pull this up. Greg Abbott officially has pardoned Daniel Perry. And I already have seen tons of people saying, why did it take this long? Why did it take this long? Okay, a couple things. One, the court case took a long time in general, and you can't pardon someone prior to the court case taking place. Also, Texas has the governor doesn't have full power in pardoning. There has to be a full committee that looks over the case, and there's a pretty long process that it entails. But they went through that process. Apparently, everyone on the appeals board or on the pardoning board basically just said, hey, clear case of self-defense, let him go. And Daniel Perry has now been officially pardoned for shooting a rioter who came up to him with an AK-47 and pointed it at his car. All right, utterly insane to think about. And everyone's like, oh, you support the Second Amendment, yet you were okay with him shooting a guy just for holding a gun? He wasn't holding a gun. He was holding him hostage. That's the difference.
And pointing the gun at him with it ready to fire.
Yes. If you stop someone's car and you have a weapon and you start going into that, low but ready position, it's reasonable for me to assume you're going to shoot me. And let's not forget, multiple people at these areas have been shot in their cars. I forget if it was in Utah. I want to say it was Utah, where a car gently goes through the protest, doesn't hit a soul, yet someone pulls out a gun and starts shooting at that car. And the person was shot, luckily survived. But people have been shot during these instances. So when someone comes up to him with an AK-47, stops his vehicle, and then tries pointing it at him, yes, he's going to open fire on him. Thank goodness he did too. But
yeah, and so the argument from the left is, of course, oh, they released a racist, and so they're already throwing around he was a white supremacist, blah blah blah. Regardless of what he was, it was obvious self-defense.
exactly. Well, because for them, it's never about the law. It's about equity. Everything must be even, not fair, but even. And that's a big, that's kind of their big rallying cry. The same as all communists, right? It's never about things being actually fair, because if things are fair, guess what? You're going to have some levels of inequity.
Winners and losers, yeah.
Do what?
You have winners and losers if everything is fair.
Yes, exactly. Like, listen, NBA, think if the NBA had equity, it doesn't work. I mean, you're gonna tell me it's great if everyone is at the dead average? You're gonna have a bunch of like 5-10 guys of, just, what was it? Like maybe 2 guys who are black, 2 guys who are white, and like 1 guy who's Asian. Like, is that really do you really think that's gonna work out that well? I mean, come on. No one wants to watch that. People want to watch the best of the best. And when you have the best of the best, you're going to have an equity.
You're absolutely Hispanic phobic or something. What, are you scared of Hispanics? They don't get to play? You never seen their athletic ability on the basketball court?
Well, they're busy playing baseball, so.
I don't know, man. My buddies down in Brownsville, they hoop it up every Saturday morning. They're gonna not like your comment. You left them completely out of the NBA.
Yeah, it was funny. I went on a run the other day, and I ran by the basketball court by here, and some of the guys there were trying to get me to join because they went, "Yo, tall guy." I was just doing a quick 3-mile run out there, but obviously, let's just say I don't do anything to break stereotypes when it comes to people like me. But no, it is promising to see at least places like Texas pardoning people like Daniel Perry. Now, again, it shouldn't have gone this far in the first place. The fact he was ever convicted might kind of blackpill some people for sure, but it is at least good to see.
The next step is to get a pardon for Daniel Penny.
Yes, but I mean that's New York, so I don't think that's happening.
It needs to be a presidential.
I don't think you can't do a presidential pardon for a state crime, unfortunately.
So let's quickly up the charge to a hate crime that's federal.
Hey, there you go. Make him plead guilty to the federal hate crime, but not the actual murder as a plea deal, and then you can pardon him later.
Yeah.
Of course, again, a hero who defends people on a subway, going to trial for murder. Yet, of course, there's constant cases right now where women are being abused in the streets. By
you see the one where the guy just put the rope around her neck and drugged her, and
yes, and apparently he has a list of crimes like as long as my leg, and I'm a 6'5" guy, so that's a pretty long list. But and again, he's out on the street, no problem. How can we keep doing this? It's unreal. And I remember not really agreeing with the whole 3 strikes rule a while back, because I kind of thought, okay, well, what if you have like some BS crimes that really shouldn't be? Oh, you got caught with weed. Oh, you got caught skateboarding when in an area you weren't supposed to. Oh, you shoplifted once. All right, now you're in jail for like 20, 30 years. I see the problems with the 3 strikes rule, but can we at least do like a 3 strikes rule when it comes to violent crimes? Like at the very least, can we at least get that? I mean, if you have 3 violent crimes on your record,
one armed robbery should equal at least 2 strikes on its own.
One armed robbery should be also considered attempted murder. I'm sorry. If you hold a gun to me and say, "Give me what you have or I will kill you," I think that should be considered attempted murder at the same time. I mean, we don't treat any of it like we should. I mean, people are getting 10 years in jail for actual attempted murder. People are getting like 5 years in jail for stuff like child abuse. Like, it's insane what we have now. And we wonder why people are...
How about all the years for shaking a barrier outside of the Capitol building? You get multiple years for that.
Well, a child abuser, I mean, that's one thing. But, you sit there and walk through the Capitol when you weren't supposed to. Man, solitary confinement in jail for, possibly over a decade. It's...
I know. After the police escorted them through the door.
Yeah. Yeah, come on in. Hey, who opened the magnetic doors is all I'm saying, okay? I mean, they could not have opened it themselves.
How are we 4 years away, basically, and that question is yet to be answered? That shows you that there's some shenanigans at play.
The whole thing has been just tons of shenanigans at this point. Heck, look what they're doing for the debate now. I mean, you saw Joe Biden's list of demands for the debate.
Yeah.
I mean, for one, no VP
and,
debate.
And he gives a 12-second speech that's cut 17 times from Sunday. He can't even just read a teleprompter to be his tough, I'll do this anytime, anywhere kind of a speech. And yet after that tough speech, he's got a list this long of requirements before he's willing to do it.
So
and so I'm going to go to the outlets like CNN, where we know for a fact Donna Brazile gave Hillary Clinton the questions before the debate. And we're going to say that this is going to be on the up and up, and it's totally the right thing to do.
Well, you know, the worst part is Republicans aren't going to fight this probably whatsoever, because, I mean, if they're going to sit there and hold the Republican debates where they held them, I mean, can you really expect them to do much? I mean, the fact that the primary, right. I've been saying that, I said this when the primary debates were going on. The fact that the primary debates were not hosted by The Blaze or by Daily Wire, or hell, even like Joe Rogan, who, let's face it, is totally like middle left, not middle right, if you actually look at his political beliefs. You could capture so much of the youth vote if you start doing stuff like that. It's insane. Yet the Republicans still try to play ball with ABC, MSNBC, CNN, NBC, all those places that just despise them. All because, that's what, I remember seeing people on back in the day. Like, that's, okay, yeah, maybe back in the day, but even then they were kind of BS even back then, to be honest. But
well, and the Hillary thing, they were cheating their own side, because that was the Bernie debates that they were feeding her the questions before the debate on.
And that's why a bunch of Bernie supporters went and voted for Trump during that election. I mean, I met a few of them that went and voted for Trump because they thought that he would burn everything down, so that's why they wanted him. But still, still not bad. But again, so I'm going to, real quick, I just pulled up all the crazy debate rules that are on here now, because their list is pretty strange. So first off, no audiences. Have there ever really been presidential debates without an audience? Because I don't think there has.
I think even in 2020 we had audiences, didn't we?
Yes, even during COVID, the thing that was going to kill us all, we still had audiences at the debate. But let's face it, what it is they know that, I don't think they're worried about Trump playing the audience, though he does a great job with that, obviously. We saw that during his town hall with CNN, where he didn't even address the moderator, he addressed the audience, and it worked brilliantly. I don't think they're worried about that. I think they're worried about their own side. I really think that's their main concern, that there will be people on the left, the pro-Palestine crowd, protesting Biden at these events. I think that's their real fear. Nothing to do with Trump.
I think you're right. And I'm still holding out hope that their Chicago convention looks like 68.
Just riots going on outside?
I'm pulling for the leftists to come hard after them in Chicago, but that means they probably won't.
Well, they're talking about doing that virtually actually now, so.
Yeah, of course they are.
Basement Joe over there.
Well, I mean, bird flu is a big thing we got to watch out for. We got to be careful.
No, I know, right? That's the next one. So we got no audiences, which is already strange enough. Now that I don't think this is really that big of a deal. No JFK, no third party candidates. I mean,
if they could get JFK, that would be a coup. But I think you meant RFK.
Oh, RFK, yeah. Back from beyond the grave. That was a Futurama episode. Just have like his head in a jar up there,
or at least parts of it. Too soon.
The do what?
I said at least parts of it. Too soon.
That's messed up. I mean, RFK has some problems with his brain too right now, so.
Those brain worms really seem to attack Democrats. I don't know what that's all about.
The whole thing, he had a brain worm in his head that starved to death. I mean,
if his poll numbers, are what the polls are saying his poll numbers are, historically he would have been up there.
Yeah, but he's not. He hasn't he's not on the ballot in enough states to win the election anyway. He's only on the ballot for like 5 states currently, and then like registered to be on the ballot for hopefully like 10 or so more. He's not actually on the ballot in a lot of states right now. So it kind of makes sense not to have someone who literally has no possibility of winning. It would be fun. But also, to be honest, I know it's petty of me, but his voice gets me. I just can't get over it. I know he can't help it. I know my voice is pretty bad too, but I just saying, like, his is, I don't want to hear an hour of this. Like, I mean, it's just so grating. I can't stand it. I do not want to listen to that. I know it's petty, but I don't want to hear him go on and on about how we should have abortions up to 9 months, you know?
He kind of pulled back from that, which shows that the traditional route, the leftist moved to the right, the rightist moved to the left during the general election. So that's kind of a typical political move. He pulled back from it a little bit, but you know where he really stands, and his prior statements of taking away guns too. Well, we know what he's all about. He's an avowed leftist, despite the fact the left hates him more than we do.
I know. Again, it's by just normal standards, he is a far leftist. Like, let's be real, he is a radical leftist. Like you say, he wants to take away the Second Amendment rights of many Americans. He actually believes up till 9 months when it comes to abortion. Now, he can say now he doesn't, but he literally just said a week ago. You're telling me it switched that quickly, yet you can't give me a full reasoning as to why, other than, well, I talked to some people and they convinced me. No, you talked to your polling people and they convinced you. That's the reality. I know what you actually believe. You know, and Vivek had this problem.
What his polling people told him is, you had the chance to hurt Trump from the right and you just screwed it. You've got to get in to take more from Trump.
Well, what's amazing about it, so like Vivek had this issue too, right? Where he had a bunch of statements in his past that kind of leaned a little bit left. And even while running, he said a couple things that he then went back on. But every time he got asked about it, he was able to say, this is what made me change my mind. He could go out there and he would say, this is what got me to, I think he talked about abortion at one point. He was talking about after he talked to some people who nearly aborted their kid, yet then, you know, their kid grew up and it was a great blessing for them and all that stuff. He could tell a story to explain why his positions changed. Now, whether or not that's true, who knows? But the fact he actually was talented enough to do that does say something. The fact RFK just goes a week later, I talked to some people and they convinced me it wasn't really the best idea. Come on, really? Like, you don't sell it more at least. Just do more. But I don't know. I think it makes sense not to have RFK at the debates, obviously. I mean, and I'm someone who really likes the Libertarian Party and would love to see like a Libertarian candidate up there, but I mean, their only chance for that might have been the last election because no one really liked, you know, people didn't really like Trump too much. People didn't really like Biden or Hillary. I mean, those elections would have been the one to use there.
So no audience, no Kennedy, and only leftist outlets.
Yeah, so the limited news outlets, I think they have, so the only networks that can host a debate are CNN, ABC, CBS, or Telemundo, which I think they had something on Telemundo at one of the last debates, and it was so frustrating because I could barely understand what they were saying because they had a strong accent, which I'm sorry, that shouldn't be the case in an American election. All right, this is a presidential debate. I understand that you want to have like some Hispanic representation, but do you know how many Hispanics who I know who can speak English very fluently? And this person couldn't speak English fluently at all. It was so frustrating to watch. So I really hope they don't do Telemundo because that's just gonna be a pain to watch. But I mean,
unless they choose to allow the Telemundo weather crew to do the moderation.
Well, Trump would definitely like that.
To turn in.
Trump would definitely like that, but I think they're a little too old for Biden. So.
Oh, shots fired.
So this is one that was also kind of interesting, that the candidates' mics must be muted after their time has expired. I've seen some people defending this, and I despise it with a passion. Let's face it, the whole debate system is terrible from the get-go. We can both agree on that, right?
Oh, I hate the way they've been. And then those Republican primary debates were just awful. They were some of the worst in the history of debates. There's no debate.
It's my talking point, now your talking point, now my talking point, now your talking point. There's no actual discussion taking place.
There's no debate.
And if this person is willing to be the leader of the free world, you're telling me they're not able just to have a conversation with someone they disagree with? You're telling me they can't have a natural back and forth? I mean, you watch YouTubers all the time able to have like an actual debate with one, or just, again, more of a conversation, even though they despise one another. And the moderator, yes, has to step in and be kind of on their toes a bit more to make sure things stay on topic. But it's done far better. I think I think recently Jordan Peterson was sitting down with that leftist Destiny, and they were having a conversation, and they were butting heads quite a bit, but they got through a lot of topics and had a really thought out conversation. That is what's needed to happen. Because here's the thing, when they're negotiating with foreign leaders, do you think the foreign leader is going to say, all right, so let's have your 2 minutes, and then I'll have my 2 minutes, and then you have your 2 minutes? That's not how it works in the real world. If you can't handle the pressure of a conversation, you shouldn't be here. And
well, cut his mic off or not, I think Trump's going to be heard if they're standing close enough to one another.
That they'll separate them so far apart.
Yeah. It'll be one. They'll have to come together from their basements.
It's gonna be like this. It's gonna be just on each other's camera, right? It's gonna be just a live stream. Like, all right, you're muted. Now you go.
I mean, would you be shocked if they did it? There's no audience anyway. Why go to a studio?
No, I know. It really doesn't make much sense. If there's no audience, what's the point? Other than the fact of the main networks don't even understand, how modern internet works. So, but I mean, the poll. What will be the so? I guess let's hear it. Do you think there'll actually be the debates?
I'm gonna lean yes, but I wouldn't be shocked if somehow they didn't pull away. But 75% yes, I think at this point.
I'll say so as well, only because the Republicans are a bunch of wusses and would never take a stand.
Did you see Trump's only requirement?
What was it?
Both have to stand for 2 hours for the full debate. That was the only thing. That's the only thing I've seen all day long that he came back as a counter, and I don't think that's. I mean, it's a good counter, but he shouldn't accede to these.
I know he was saying he would like to have 4 debates, with one of them being a VP debate, but I know that wasn't like an official counter that he made with that one. But is it somewhat telling too that he doesn't want to have a VP debate? I mean, admittedly, the VP debates are pointless because VPs are kind of pointless in this day and age, unfortunately. But yeah, it would be fun to watch Kamala Harris talk about Venn diagrams while whoever Trump picks, probably just does traditional conservative talking points.
And this is where somebody like a Haley or a Rubio would just be terrible. I'd rather have like a Byron Daniels or somebody that's just going to get in there and eviscerate her.
I mean, just get Tulsi Gabbard back.
Yeah, no, she already eviscerated her once. You're right.
It'll be a great rematch. Hey, no, Tulsi Gabbard again.
I don't want some milquetoast vice president candidate that's just going to stand up there and take it. I want.
So you want either like DeSantis or Vivek, right? That's what you want.
Or I love Byron Daniels too. I think he could tear her apart.
Was he the one who was on the Republican stage?
I'm
about to say who?
No, he's
I'm blanking on Byron
Congressman
Daniels.
from Florida. Black congressman from Florida.
Oh, okay. I know what you were talking about then. Yeah. Okay, yeah. No, he's been pretty good. He's been on CNN a couple times actually.
He's bold, and the last few TV appearances, Tim Scott has been much better. If the Tim Scott that's been on the last few interviews had been on the stage, it would have. He still wouldn't have gotten anywhere, but it would have been a lot better because he was just terrible in the primaries. I don't
like the way he talks.
But I don't. He wouldn't be my choice. He wouldn't be.
He comes across like someone who read like a massive script and is just like reading it off in his mind the entire time. Like, oh wait, insert laugh here, ha 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 ha. Like it's just, at least he won't say it like Biden does. But
Yeah. Now, of all the people that I would love to see on a debate stage at any given time, of the ones that are out there right now, is your man Vivek.
Oh, that
He's
would be
quick on
brilliant.
he's quick on his feet. He's smart. He can turn the conversation around in a heartbeat. He does
Kamala
stick
couldn't
his
use
foot.
the race card against him either, which would be nice to see.
He does stick his foot in his mouth enough that it makes it even, so you're just sitting there waiting to see what might happen. So then there's a lot of fun things about watching him on the stage.
I really hope he has a long history in politics. I really do. I really like. I have more support for him than I did Ted Cruz, and I really liked Ted Cruz back in 2016. But like, I would really love to see Vivek do more.
So you're okay with that level of colonialism?
Of what? Having someone like Vivek come into the country?
I should have said reverse colonialism, I guess. I'm not sure.
I'm about to say he adapted all of our cultural values. I mean, he's the epitome of what I want. So when he says, "I want to come to America because Western values are better,"
did he, or is he just the real Manchurian candidate after all the?
Listen, the Manchurian candidate wouldn't be sitting there yelling at Nikki Haley the way he did and calling her out the way he did. That was still, you want to send people to die in Ukraine? Tell me, can you even name 3 of the prophets it says in Ukraine? Look at her, blank stare. She doesn't know a thing. Oh man, he ripped her apart more than Tulsi Gabbard ripped apart Kamala Harris.
And that's saying a lot, but that was some subcontinent on subcontinent violence at that point, man. They were after he was after her.
Oh man. Now, of course, if this debate was taking place at like an actual non-bias part, right, there would actually probably be some more questions towards Biden about some of the crap he's been kind of getting into here, because there's been a lot of stuff happening around him. But the most recent one. So
before you get into this, I can go ahead and tell you how the debate's going to go. The first 6 questions, at least, are going to be around abortion and abortion-related women's health issues. And they're going to set the tone. It's never going to get around to where they have a good talk about the economy. It's never going to get around to where they really have a good talk on inflation and what the true cause and solution to inflation is. It's never going to get around to the fake job numbers that Biden likes to tout. It's not going to get to that. They're going to start with abortion, and they're going to run with it as long and beat that horse to death. And that's how the debate's going to go.
So they need probably 3 total issues that would be in Biden's favor to talk about to really fill out the time space pretty well. So obviously you're 100% right. Abortion's going to be number 1, 100%.
J6 and the
January
threat to democracy.
6th. Will you, Trump, actually acknowledge, or will you actually concede the election this time and not have riots? Or are you going to pardon the violent rioters at January 6th or violent insurrectionists? That sort of question.
Yep.
So that's 2 right there. What's probably going to be the 3rd, though? Because, again, you got to pad out that time. Or are they going to sit there and maybe throw kind of a softball to Biden maybe about the economy and keep it very vague, so that way it's kind of hard to go with. Anytime Trump goes too much about some of the things Biden's doing, they can try to reel him back and go, we'll talk about that in a little bit, and they'll keep it kind of in Biden's court.
Well, when they talk about the economy, it'll be housed in a way that of Trump's tax cuts for the rich will get mentioned when it talks about the economy. And so everything's going to be positioned in a way that's going to set up the left and tear down Trump. So I think that's probably the 3. You can go with, I mean, obviously, so Mr. Trump, you've had your legal issues. You've been able to get through those and skirt through those. What do you think going forward? Are they just going to haunt you? How are they going to hound you? How are you going to handle it when this happens or that happens? So they'll bring that up in some form or fashion. And right there, you've already got an hour and a half of your debate. And then you got your opening and your closing statements, and they never get around to the things. The border is going to be fluffed over. Inflation's going to be fluffed over. And they're going to focus hard on these 4 issues that Americans really care about.
I mean, yeah, they're not even going. I think they'll try to avoid this topic of inflation altogether, just period, right? They're going to try to not bring that up whatsoever, because there is no solid argument towards it. I mean, Biden tried to claim that the inflation under Trump was 9% when it was like 1.5 actually.
No, he's repeatedly lied about it. He said it again this week. Last
Yeah.
week he said it, then he repeated it again this week. It was 9% when I came into office. It was not even close to that when you came into the office.
I think people are starting to wake up to this because people just they go grocery shopping. Like they know.
Well,
I
and
know
his
people on the
surrogate,
left who are telling me they don't know how they're going to pay for their groceries.
his surrogates are out there touting today's numbers and saying that groceries have been flat and then down 0.02% over the last 3 months.
And here's the
And
thing though, certain food items they
what they're
won't
not
count under the
telling you,
listing.
well, and not just that, they're not telling you it's a reduction in the amount that it's been growing. It's not an actual reduction in price. It's just not going up as fast as it was in the previous month. It's still going up. And
I
it's
mean,
still, most grocery items are still 30% higher and more than what it was when Trump was in
I'm
office.
going to keep pointing this out. Under Trump, I was paying 97 cents for a dozen eggs. 97 cents at Walmart for a dozen eggs under Trump. Now it's about $3 for a dozen. And here's the thing: my kids go through a lot of it. They go through about 6 eggs a day. Okay, both my kids are going through a growth spurt. They're eating 3 eggs a piece right now, and we go through quite a bit of them.
I had 3 this morning, and I'm a overweight older guy.
Here's my problem. Like if I make eggs for myself, I'm making like 5 or 6 for just me typically, and so I'm instead having like my peanut butter bagels instead. Cause I'm like, oh, that's actually cheaper than me eating all these eggs. But here's the thing: we're making more money now than like we've ever made before, and we're not eating nearly as well as we ate before. It's bizarre. It really is bizarre. I don't know how. I mean, there was a time when even it was before we had kids, but me and Kat were living off around 40 something a year, like low 40s a year, and actually, we had good meals and we went out to eat a decent amount. And kids cost money, but believe me, we're feeding them enough, but it's not like we're giving them top shelf items here.
Well, we grocery shop today, and I guarantee you what we bought for 240 today would not have been 150 3 years ago.
Oh, 100. Kat brought home like just some, basically kind of like we need a little bit of things, not a ton of stuff. So she went, got a few things. She came back and said, guess how much this is? And she'd been doing most of grocery shopping. So I'm still like thinking back during Trump numbers, back when I was going grocery shopping more often. And I was like, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks. And she went 170. It's like 100. She got like some burger meat, some chicken, some eggs, some butter, and like a thing of milk. Like it wasn't really that much.
Yeah, Lord help you if you had cleaning supplies into it.
I mean, there was a time when I was making about maybe 26,000 a year, 28,000 a year. I was having steak at for lunch at work. I would come to work with Tupperware containers with steak and potatoes.
You had steak and eggs like every morning.
Oh, it was so good. You get those little round steaks, fry them up in the pan, cook the eggs and all the steak grease and seasoning, then get some toast with some preserves on it. It's a good breakfast. Great way to start your day.
So the surrogates were out today just touting this reduction. And again, it's not a reduction in the actual cost, because what they were claiming is that now they were avoiding the fact that even though wages have been increasing, they're not increasing it fast enough to compensate for the increase in food prices. And that food has grown, that growth has outstripped, and people are actually making less because they're having to spend more on necessities. And they flat out just repeatedly lied about it and said, that's just not true. That's just not true. It is true. According to government statistics, it's irrefutable if you believe government statistics, and the government is saying their own statistics are lies.
And not only that, but those statistics are biased in their favor anyway from the get-go. So what's the reality of the situation? It's far worse.
When inflation was reported at 9%, report it back from what it used to when I was a kid, it was like 18%.
Well, because again, I said it before, they don't count certain items, which is bizarre. Like there's a lot of things they don't count in their inflation reports. Certain food categories aren't counted when they look at groceries. I think there's certain meats that they don't count because they say, oh, well, they vary so much in price so much that we don't really want to count them into our statistics. We want to count only these stable items. But okay, so what they fluctuate? Tell me, what were they last year on average throughout the course of the year, and tell me what are they this year across the average of the year. Like it doesn't matter if they fluctuate. You can still give me a rough estimate here. But they don't want to add those in because they know especially meats, meats have gone up tremendously. I
Yeah,
mean,
I was looking at Boston butts today, and pork shoulders, just ridiculous from what the cost used to be. I mean, used to 79 cents a pound, 99 cents a pound, buck 29 cents a pound on the high end, but usually you go for the sales at 99 and 79. Now, man, it's hard to find it less than 250, 275 a pound. Unless you're in Texas, Jim still sends me flyers where he's getting meat just as cheap as could be, but it's not that way around here.
well, what's crazy
And
is
I'm
like,
not shopping. I'm not shopping at Whole Foods either. Shopping at Food Lion here, and still, man, the prices are just nuts.
well, what's crazy is
So
high
when we did
school meat.
when I cooked for the church, I didn't mean to cut, but when I cooked for the church, I went and bought the meats, right? And I went to Sam's and I got the bulk cases of pork and cases of chicken. Um, you remember we used to could buy those big cases and we could charge a fair price and we could make a fair profit,
Yeah, yeah.
at least double, just for the meats. And this wasn't a lot of meats. Just for the meats was over $600.
That's insane.
And that's buying it in bulk, 2 cases of each.
Well, again, so what's crazy about some of this is that when I was in high school, with the only money I really had was standing on the side of the road with a sign and spinning it for, I was still able to afford.
We ate at the El Patrio next to your old store. Granted,
How is that El Patrio compared to the other?
it's
Still
pretty good. It was good tonight. It has. I mean, for whatever reason, their flavor profile on the salsa and some other things was off. It had almost an Italian flavoring in it. So I don't know if somebody got crazy with their seasonings or what. But other than that, the shrimp fajitas were really good.
I know we used to go there whenever we picked up one of my friends who lived actually in that area. But no, it's like high school me. It was like every once a month maybe I would buy a bunch of like Boston butts and my friends would come over and we would sit there and cook them in the smoker in the backyard and punch each other with boxing gloves and play video games. But like I was able to afford that no problem, barely having any cash flow whatsoever. Now there's no way you could do that.
I'd give anything if we could go back and tally up the pounds of meat that we cooked just for your circle of friends for about a 3 to 5 year period of time.
Hey, it was great. We would put the meat on the smoker. We would, of course, they built that boxing gym in the back, or boxing ring in the backyard that Mom hated, and we would just punch each other, go a few rounds doing stuff like that, and then what do you know, the meat would be done not too long after, and everyone would sit inside, play a bunch of Halo while eating barbecue. It was a great time.
I think it was the first day I went out there and you guys had that boxing ring put up, and I was like, yeah, this might cause a problem. And I don't remember who it was, but somebody got absolutely clocked.
Yeah, I know. It was Dakota, got his nose busted open big time.
Blood flew everywhere, and I just looked and I went, I'm just gonna go in the house.
He was a man about it though. He literally just went, great punch, all right. It's still so funny because like I thought that, hey, look at us, we're fighting, yeah, we could take on the world. And then I went to a real boxing gym, like a year or so later and got my butt whooped multiple times. It took me a good while at that boxing gym to unlearn all the bad habits, but I think I went there for like over half a year at that particular one and went to a couple others while I was traveling for work occasionally, but that was a good time. But
when he dropped, I think I went, hey guys, meat's done. Eat when you're ready. I'm going inside. And I didn't look. I made a point not to look out the window anymore.
Oh, come on. I bet you're at least happy that of all things we were doing, that is what we're deciding to do. I mean, what's better? That's what we need more of right there. Come on, right?
No, I'm 100% in favor of that. I'm 100% in favor. We need to bring back like the ancient Greeks and Romans of all males have to be in the fighting sports as kids. Imagine getting the aggression. Imagine getting the aggression out of boys. ADD, ADHD would go away. Take away the sugary breakfasts and all the crap that they're fed, and actually put them in physical competitions. And all of a sudden, your school problems go away.
Well, and that's again, once Junior hits the age where a boxing gym will let him join. I think it depends on the gym. Sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's like 6, sometimes they even go up to like 7 before you can actually get your kid involved. I'm going to have him in one. And again, it might be boxing, maybe it'll be Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. I really don't care either way, as long as it's a combat sport. And it's not because I want him to actually beat up people. I could care less if, like, I hope he doesn't have to ever get into a real fight, but it's good that he knows how to just in case. But beyond that, there is something different about a combat sport versus playing like baseball. Baseball is great. I guess I didn't really enjoy playing it too much as a kid, though I was all right at it, I guess. But basketball, right? I enjoyed playing basketball as a kid. There's a big difference between playing something like that, where you're on a team and working together, which is still great. Excellent lessons for a kid, obviously. But when you're in a ring by yourself and you actually are being physically hurt, punched in the face, and have to push through and either just mature a lot faster when it comes to doing that sort of stuff. There's something totally different about it. Yeah, I remember the boxing coach I had would say, you can play football, you can play basketball, you can't play boxing. Right? You're fighting. It's a competition. It's serious. You need to take it serious or you're going to get hurt. That's a good mindset to teach people. Like a seriously good mindset to teach people. And we don't teach it at all anymore, which is probably why we have what seems like almost feral animals in the schools these days. I mean, they're just going at it like crazy.
And the amazing thing about that is there's so much craziness, and yet they've been kept in a bubble. They weren't allowed to do anything. Goes, I can't allow them to go out and climb that rock or get in the ring with another kid or whatever the case is. They keep them in these little bubbles, and then they go. You got to get that. Boys especially have to get that aggressiveness out somewhere.
Yeah, and I think so. Jordan Pearson talks a lot about how even at young ages, like 2 and 3 and 4 and stuff like that, wrestling is extremely important. I mean, not just for young boys, but also young girls, but especially for young boys. And obviously I wrestle a lot with my kids. You heard some of it when I called you the other day and them just all, throwing them on the bed and stuff like that. But, we do a lot of that sort of stuff, but there's a good reason for it, right? It helps them understand how to navigate the world in a particular way. I understand their body and how it properly moves, how to push themselves right up to that edge before getting hurt, obviously. Helps them judge, what's the word? Risk, just basic risk assessment, I would say. But just like, okay, how far can I go with this before I get hurt? Just important things that all kids need to know.
Just remember, there's going to be at least once or twice where they don't judge, and it's not their risk assessment. It's the risk assessment of what they might do to you when they jump on you from the couch to the floor.
Oh, believe me, I've been headbutted enough times. He actually got me pretty good in the jaw earlier today. We were kind of wrestling on the couch, and he just was going wild with it and just went whack right into my jaw.
It's not always the headbutts that are the problematic things that happen. It's getting hit in other places.
Sometimes they'll fall down and go, quick, I need to grab hold of something. But
no, keep wrestling.
And again, like you've seen like the place that they have like out in the park and stuff, that giant thing they can climb and all this stuff. And I've had parents constantly come up to me going, he's only 2-3 years old to climb it. You let him climb all the way to the top of that? And I'm like, he got in there by himself. He climbed up by himself. I didn't go, here you go up this thing, go do this, do that. I said, he wanted to climb it. I said, if you want to climb it, you got to get up there yourself. After like 2-3 days, he figured out how to get up there himself. He knows what he can and can't do. Now he's starting to push the boundaries a little bit more. Now he's playing with the more rope things that go off to the side, and I'm getting a little nervous again, but what you gonna do? It is really funny. He's grabbing the bottom ropes, and he puts his feet on one on the side, and he does like almost like a pull up, and he'll do like a bunch of them, and he'll look at me and go, I'm strong. Yeah, but how many times he sees me in the garage doing pull-ups? It's really funny.
Well, just keep pushing him. Keep pushing him. I mean, things have changed, man. As a Gen Xer, when we were kids, we actually played outside and hurt one another. That's what it was all about. When we played basketball, it was the roughest sport you ever played in your life. It was full contact, and unless there was a lot of blood, there was no foul called. That's just what you did.
I mean, the
You're
amount of
gonna
times
come
we
in-
played
you're gonna
Star
come-
Wars and hit each other with aluminum pipes in the head, you know.
Yeah, you're gonna come in my lane and expect that you're gonna do something in my lane. You're gonna get pounded. That's how we played.
Or, you know, you play stuff like
And I
Army
get-
Dodgeball where the point is to try to hit them in the head of all things. And, oh, we don't know
Man.
where the kickball is. I just use the basketball. It's fine.
Shoot, man, we shot each other with air rifles, threw dirt clogs at one another.
King of the Hill, you know, whenever there was like a construction project behind our friend's house and, you know, we're staying on top of that dirt mound and throwing each other down it.
I'll go with the appropriate name. Tackle the man with the football. One person has the football. Everybody else is out to kill him.
And
Red
you know,
Rover. All of our games were violent, man. It was fun.
so last week, me and Kat went to go see Jordan Peterson live, which, by the way, a lot of fun, really amazing. Actually, made sure I got a little souvenir while I was there too. So, and Kat got a set of leather bookmarks, each of them with one of the rules of 12 Rules for Life, which is kind of cool. But a lot of stuff he was talking about there was the idea that play, especially that kind of play, is very important for people just to kind of learn how to go about navigating the world as they get older. That obviously you know how far you can push people, you know how you can push things. You have this back and forth, because what we have a problem with now is a lot of Gen Zers, especially, they've had this taken away from them, and now they're going into the real world and they don't know how to communicate properly with other people. They don't know how to do a proper back and forth. And obviously, you know, one of the things he was talking about is the fact that conversation is just almost like the adult version of something like tackle football or, you know, King of the Hill or any of that stuff, where you're pushing each other around, you're pushing each other back, you're trying to assert your position, but at the same time, you're not going to go beyond the bounds of what's acceptable, because obviously if I'm on top of the hill and I pick up a baseball bat and start hitting people, no one's going to want to play anymore, right? So the fact that especially Gen Z kids did not have this in a lot of ways, they're having a lot of problems now navigating through the world. Now, what I worry about more with my kids is a similar issue of, okay, I can let them do this sort of stuff. I can encourage them to do this sort of stuff. But it's also the case where not a lot of people in my generation are having kids, which makes it even harder for me to try to find other kids for them to play with and learn from. Like when we were growing up, it was like, all right, I went to go across the street to play with this friend, and then we went over here to grab our other friend, and then sometimes we'd go down, you know, the neighborhood and grab a third friend as well. And like in our neighborhood alone, there was multiple kids. Yet now you have a lot of these neighborhoods, you have like one or two families. Like it's not a lot anymore, because not a lot of people are having children.
And even the ones that are keeping them in their own backyard.
Yeah.
You don't have community in the community anymore.
Well, it's funny. So me and Kat, we watched this kind of like old 80s kind of animated movie with the kids, and it was Japanese made movie, but really, really good. Kiki's Delivery Service, if anyone's a fan of Ghibli films, they're outstanding. Great lessons, far better than Disney. But it's funny, the character's going through town and like everyone's so kind and helpful and all this kind of stuff, and she's like, I can't imagine like a kid that age going through town. Like what I'm like, well, one, this was the 80s. Two, over there things are a little different. People kind of trust their kids. You know, there's a lot. It's a very high trust society, so it's kind of looked as a norm. We don't have that here. Like people are reluctant to let their 10-year-olds walk around their own neighborhoods anymore. Meanwhile, at like 12 or 13, me and my friends would walk down the highway just about, you know, go to McDonald's. Now, Mom didn't want us to do that, but we still did it. But guess what? No one stopped us. No one cared. As long as we weren't running in the road, why would anyone care, right?
It was probably safer than the back of the swamp where you guys played.
I don't know how we didn't get like terribly sick with ticks and also bit by snakes or something. We found like moccasins before out there. I remember one time we did find a moccasin out there, but like, you know, fortunately none of us got bit.
Not sure if I told your mom. Oh yeah, I think I did tell her. But I ran the first snake out of the yard just a couple of days ago.
Nah,
for the year.
We don't have a problem with snakes. We just got those lizards that keep coming up to say hi and making Junior all excited. That one with the two tails, it keeps coming up.
This was a black racer. He was a pretty big one.
Really?
I think he's the one that might. I think he's the one that might have left the skin in the shed for us that freaked her out so bad.
So you didn't kill him, right? You just pushed him, go away, basically.
Yeah, I don't kill him. I'd rather have him than the mice or anything else that might be in the yard.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, good.
Now, the only ones I kill in the yard are copperheads or moccasins.
Yeah, go ahead, kill them.
And I probably shouldn't say that out loud because that makes people angry now. But I don't want venomous snakes running around my yard.
Tell me, with how much things have grown over there, can you go out there with a shotgun to kill them, or do you have to kill them with like an axe?
Well, I don't think I've killed one with a shotgun since the one that was up under the playhouse. I couldn't.
That was only
get to
because you
it.
couldn't reach that one.
Yeah, I couldn't reach it. So that was funny, man. I blew that one out of the water, and then people started coming up from the neighborhood. Was that a gunshot? Hell yeah, it was a gunshot.
Yeah, I still remember I nailed that one in Ricky's Pond. That was a blast. No pun intended there, but that single, what was it? That break action shotgun too. That thing had some kick, even with just some bird shot that had kick. I was surprised.
Yeah, well, that's that old double barrel. It was Granddaddy's gun, I think. That was that one has. That was the first one I ever shot. It almost knocked me on my behind.
Yeah, Granddaddy said he was going to leave that one to me. Hopefully, 10 years from now or so.
That's a different one. That's a different one. So there's one that's there that he's got for you, but there's one that's there for Ricky that he already had.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
That
Okay, I think he was talking a double.
Summer.
I think he was talking double barrel is what he was saying for me. I forget. It was one of those more antique shotguns though.
Yeah, it was a double barrel. But see that one you shot though. You shot because Ricky said he wanted it shot, but that was just a water snake. That wasn't no need to shoot him.
It was fun.
He was a good one. Of course he's just out there eating frogs. I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing.
Yeah, but I gotta show off my marksman skill, which these days I don't get to do anymore.
Well, you showed it off in a couple of ways because you also knocked Buck in the head with a giant log.
By the way, Buck is the name of a dog. That's what makes it really bad. Yeah, I threw a giant log off the side of the house or off the porch of the house, and that dumb dog went and tried to grab it, like jump up like something out of a movie to grab it, and right in the head. Man, I thought for sure I killed that dog. I just remember Austin coming up next to me going like,
Preston.
No, I remember Austin coming next to me saying, "Don't blame yourself. That was all on the dog." That was a good time. Hopefully nothing like that happens when we go up there again for Granddad's birthday.
Well, it won't be Buck. Buck has gone over that Rainbow Bridge. Not from the law.
I didn't kill. Listen, I'm not a governor of South Dakota, okay? I'm not going to sit there and go around.
He was a bad dog, so he deserved it.
So before we go, I did have one more thing I wanted to bring up here.
This has been a wild combo.
Yeah, I know, right? So obviously there's been a lot of college graduations happening right now. I'm pretty sure you have seen a couple of them that have been going on. Did you see what happened with Jerry Seinfeld though? Over
of course,
over at Duke. Yeah. So
they're not quite as bad as the terrible folks in Chapel Hill, but they're close.
Well, they had a bunch of people try protesting and walk out of it during the middle of the graduation, which, come on, I would say have some class, but it's college kids. They don't have any class. But what was interesting about it was he got some heat because of some of his comments he made. So, down here, you see the people with the Palestinian flag start unfolding them and walking out. And of course, they do this because he's Jewish. We didn't say anything about Israel. It's just because he's Jewish. The blatant anti-Semitism.
Obviously, he had said some things over the last few weeks that were in support of Israel, but he's
very plain. It wasn't very high. Jew.
I know. God forbid a Jew say Jewish things.
It totally is anti-Semitism on their end, right? Like that is the actual anti-Semites that are around right now. But what was funny about it, so during his speech, he talks about privilege. And this
Yeah, it
one I
was
thought
wonderful.
was fantastic, and I was so happy to hear because it's something that people are scared to talk about these days. So he says, privilege is a word that has been taken, or has taken quite a beating lately. Privilege today seems to be the worst thing you can have. I like to take a moment to defend it. Again, a lot of you are thinking, I can't believe they invited this guy. Too late. I say, use your privilege. I grew up as a Jewish boy from New York. That is a privilege if you want to be a comedian. Yeah, of course. Concluding his point, telling the students to use the education they had earned, he said, you went to Duke, and that is an unbelievable privilege. And here's the thing, like right now, it is true that like privilege is always talked about as a negative thing, right? I mean, the amount of times I've said that I've been talking about some sort of like point here where usually culturally, and one of my friends might point out, yeah, that's because of your upbringing. That's because, you know, you had like two parents, you know, you had a lot of positive influences and all this sort of stuff. And they say it like it's a bad thing. It's amazing now we're getting to a point where it used to be would say, oh, it's so sad this person didn't have something. Like, that's sad. But now we're looking at the people who do have stuff and saying, no, how? You have no right to say anything. You had two parents. You went to a good school. You had, you know, you took vacations. And they say it's like it's a negative when it should be a positive. It should be, I'm so happy for you. You had two parents in your household. I'm so happy for you. You went to a good private school. I'm so happy for you. You got to travel the world. Yet we act like these things are such negative things and like negative things that have happened to us when the reality is we should take pride in it. We should be happy about it.
I didn't
And-
send you to a good private. I didn't send you to a good private school. Are you disappointed? Is that something I should have done?
I don't know many good private schools around that area, I'll be honest.
Yeah, we did the best we
Listen,
could.
yes, our public school showed us stuff like Inconvenient Truth and all that nonsense, but it still overall wasn't the worst of the bunch, okay? I had some really good teachers there too. But
Yeah,
it is interesting to see this discussion about privilege, though, because you don't see anyone defend it at all anymore. How do we encourage people to do what is right when we ridicule people for doing what is right?
I was going to say, how do we get to a point that that living up to an ideal is considered privilege?
Oh, I know.
I mean,
Basic standards is considered privilege.
Why isn't a two-parent family a basic standard and not privilege? It should be the basic standard of living. But that's what the left wants to do. They want to tear down the family unit more than anything. The nuclear family is enemy number one.
Well, it's kind of, they say, oh, well, your parents gave you this, your parents gave you that, yada, yada, yada. Like, we did a lot of great things growing up, right? We took a lot of, like, some crazy vacations, and we went to, we took a road trip to Yellowstone. Like, that's still, like, my personal favorite we did. But we went to Gettysburg, which was absolutely insane. Of course, we got a chance to take a cruise and go scuba diving, like, over in Turks and St. Thomas and Cayman Islands. Some awesome stuff we got the chance to all go do. And people want to act like, oh, that's, again, they want to make it out to be like a bad thing. Like, oh, you were so privileged to be able to have it. Like, it's a negative. But here's the thing. They want to act like, as a parent, wanting to give to your kids is something to be looked down upon now, it seems. When no, who is more deserving of my work than my children? Right? Who's more deserving of my time? Who's more deserving of any of the stuff I produce than my kids? According to the left, though, of course, it'll be the government, right? They're the ones who get stuff.
That's exactly right. It's the government. That's the answer they want you to say.
Well, because they look at it this way. For every dollar I give my children, that's a dollar not given to the government to redistribute all across the country. That's the way they're looking at it. When the reality is how it should be looked at is every dollar the government takes is a dollar I cannot give to my child. That is how it should be looked upon.
And you're not going to give every one of your dollars to your child. You'd be giving those same dollars that are going to the government to your church. You'd be giving it to your community. You'd be giving it to support homeless or whatever it is, because we're better suited as a people to solve the problems of poverty in the world than the government ever will. We've allowed the most inept, inefficient form of redistribution that's ever been known to man, a government bureaucracy.
But wait a second.
And a trust with all problems.
If the people don't give their taxpayer dollars to the government to solve like the homeless issue, who's going to spend $10 million or tens of millions of dollars to give the homeless alcohol on the streets? Not sure if you saw
Well,
California there.
and Lord forbid, what are we going to do about the roads? The roads.
Well, it's just strange that, like, again, all the articles about what Seinfeld said over there is controversial statements on privilege. And what he's telling them is,
how about Butt Kicker 7, the Chiefs kicker who's speaking at a Catholic university and challenges women to take on the role of mother and
I got that
wife.
pulled up right here as well, actually, because again, backlash over NFL play. Come on, really? He's at it, and again, if he said this at a normal college,
he's
I could
Catholic.
see.
He's Catholic at a Catholic university speaking Catholic doctrine. And every article is claiming that he's misogynist, he's this, he's that, he's all these horrible things. But you know, one thing that gives me hope for America, his jersey is the best-selling jersey. He's now outselling Mahomes and everybody else in the NFL. But the NFL, this is what they chose to come out and make a statement that they're going to distance themselves from.
Mind you,
so they can have all the wife beatings, they can have the murders, they can have rapes, they can have all these things, and not once did they come out and say we're going to distance ourselves from this dude. This is a step too far. But a Catholic doing Catholic things can't have that.
Well, of course, because Catholics are the biggest extremists in the country, according to, like, the FBI, right?
That is what they said.
I tell you, there's almost like a small part of me that wants to, like, convert to Catholicism just so I can be on that list, according to the FBI. Like, I don't agree with everything they say, but, like...
Well, so you're non-traditional situation, but he's talking about you. You chose to step back. You chose to step back and raise kids because it was best for the kids, and the career that Kat had was the better career to support.
So real quick, let's look at his quote, because you have a very good point there. But also the way they have to, of course, frame this, of course, what Butker said about women and Taylor Swift, because of course they got to get that in there for the analytics, right? I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you, which is 100% true, right? I really think what they've told young boys is terrible, but I think what they've told young women is far worse. And we know that strictly based on, I think, the abortion argument with how many young women believe in abortion. I think that's far worse than almost anything they've told the men, to be honest. Again, still terrible on both sides, but that one right there where you're actually convincing them to kill their own children, that really is some of the worst things they've been able to convince women of. How many of you are sitting?
How about the fact that it's even a step before that? It's the whole idea that you don't have to have any self-control whatsoever.
Yeah. Or you're not responsible for your own situation in any way whatsoever.
Right.
You're not allowed to have any standards. You can't have any you can't have any school uniforms because that's just tell men not to leer or whatever they always say. No, it's not about that. It's about having standards. Standards for yourself as well.
And we're gonna celebrate. I think we should support and help single parents through our churches and everything else, but it shouldn't be celebrated.
Well, so you go out here. How many of you are sitting here now about to cross the stage and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you're going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in this world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and your children that you'll bring into this world. What is controversial about that? For one, he's not even saying stay at home and stay in the kitchen. He's not even saying it. He's saying, yeah, you're going to have great careers and all, but I'm pretty sure that's going to pale in comparison to you having a family. And guess what? Like you said, we have a non-traditional setup right here where I stay home with the kids and Kat's working because I was traveling a lot for work. And so just, it was either I'm gone for like half the year and she's alone with the kids, or she has a really good job and I stay home with the kids and she works from home. So we all get to spend more time together. We chose the latter. It's worked out really well for us. Is it non-traditional? Yes. But it's also traditional in the respect that we do what we can to put our kids first. And that was the most important thing we wanted to do. So we're both at home the majority of the time. And if you ask Kat, what's more important to you, your job, or what's brought more meaning to you, your job or your kids, it's going to be the kids. 100%. We talked at the very beginning of this where I said, she wants more kids. It's because that brings more meaning to our lives than any job could ever bring. And the same goes for men. This isn't just a woman thing either. I'll say the same thing to guys. That, having kids is far greater than any job you'll ever obtain. There's nothing better than it. So the fact that this is considered a controversial statement in general is a huge condemnation on how we look at families in general.
100%. I'm not. I can't argue with that last statement at all. It's what we've become as a society. It's a further diminishing of the nuclear family. It's a further diminishing of Christian beliefs. It's just yet another attack on Christianity.
Yeah, and so down here he says he praises his wife, saying she would be the first person to say her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and mother. I hope you would say something similar about after you had me, to be honest. That, like, it's a whole different change in your life. Like, that is when, like, a lot of stuff really begins, right? I mean, I would hope so.
Is it okay to plead the fifth at this point of the conversation? No, I think it's the same thing. Everybody is so self-centered and me in this entire conversation. And so even new parents, you hear, oh, we can't wait to ditch the kids so we can do this and we can do that. And kids' birthday
it's only for
parties.
A week. We're just trying to get you to take them for a week is all. Come on.
and kids' birthday parties have become nothing but a big old kegger for the adults. It has nothing to do with the kids whatsoever. So Papa Camp is different. Dropping them off with me for a week of Papa Camp, that's good for them, good for you, and good for everybody. But when you guys, like when we went on vacations, I couldn't imagine taking vacations without y'all being there. What would be the purpose?
So I see this all the time. These people, what do they call it? Dinks, right? Dual income, no kids. They say, oh, we're dinks because we like going on vacations and we like going out to eat at restaurants. And I'm like, we do that. What are you talking? Like, Kat and her mom had like a free like cruise ticket on like, one of those kind of go out, come back in cruises. Or no, it was over at Bahamas real quick and right back, like a 2-day cruise. And she took our daughter when she was like 1 year old and still had an absolute blast, right? Like, you can still do things. You can still go on vacation. The difference is you have to be just a little bit more disciplined than maybe you were before. And guess what? That's not really a huge negative. You should be more disciplined. You should be maturing as an adult. Or, you say, hey, guess what, wife, you watch the kid for a little bit. I'm going to go gamble or something. You switch off. But
I held up my end of that bargain, except for the cruises. The cruises were a step too far for me to hold up that end of being a respected adult at the times. But the most fun times, I mean, it's not, and when we got to our vacation spots, we didn't stick y'all in a different room or do things. We stayed in a tent.
Yeah.
We stayed in rooms together. I mean, we were just together. We played cards, we played games, and it was just great.
Cooked hot dogs
time
on the fire, made some tinfoil burgers, basically, throw them in the charcoals. It was a good time.
It was, and I mean, I wouldn't take anything for those times. And I mean, you know how the pictures roll through the TV. When those pictures come up, I can't help but be happy.
Yeah. I mean, again, the times of like the best times growing up was to me like our vacations, because for one, y'all took us to all sorts of crazy areas. Again, like Yellowstone, the Badlands, and we went to a music park, going to Cedar Point. Like, that was a lot of fun. And I forget exactly what we were doing. We went to, what were we in California for? We went to Yosemite and all that. Was it you had an event that you were speaking at in Vegas is what it was, and we just all went?
Well, it was 3. I had an event in Vegas, one in LA, and one in San Francisco.
Right.
So
right.
You guys just made the tour with me, and we did that by car.
Okay, that's right.
But you actually drove us up the Pacific Coast Highway. I mean, that's
which was
an experience
a ton of fun.
Itself. Yeah.
And there's a reason why when I got older and had to drive a minivan through New York City to open up a bunch of offices, I wasn't really too afraid, because I had already driven in so many crazy spots before.
Yeah, I mean, I can't think. I wouldn't take anything for crossing the Grand Canyon, hiking across from rim to rim together. I mean, what are you going to take for that?
I know.
And yet, and yet you've got an entire society that says this idea that parenthood should be revered and lifted up and set as an ideal is wrong. How can we say that that's wrong?
And again, these people think that he can't do this sort of stuff when they have kids, and it's like, no, what it is you're too immature to do this stuff with your kids. That's the issue, is that you have not grown as adults. We're raising a society of permanent children. And I'll perfectly be the first one to say, I matured a heck of a lot after I had kids, 100%. It forces you to grow up. Which is why
So
now I'm in favor of people getting married earlier and having kids earlier. Because people need to grow up.
Now that you're letting James go up and climb the stuff, what I want to see is when you get him in the mountains, are you going to let him go run wild like I'll let you go run?
Man, I don't know if I can go that far. You let me do some insane stuff. Again, hanging off like waterfalls, like hold on to a tree, like, wow, look at that down there. Like, I've seen too many like terrible like snuff films pop up on, X to make me nervous about that stuff.
Okay, well, I promise you, Papa Camp won't include letting James do that sort of thing.
No, instead he'll be being tossed around in the waves at the beach, and he'll be going, he'll figure himself out.
He will get to go fishing at the beach. That's going to be it for sure.
I'm jealous of that one.
But nah, man, we're looking forward to having the kids here. So,
well, again, it's because y'all are actually well-adjusted adults. I mean, I want to know what these people are going to think when they're 60, 70 years old, when they don't have any children, when they have no one there for them. Like,
I'm 100% dependent on y'all to take care of me. So I've tried to lay the groundwork. I've made the investment. I'm just waiting for the investment to pay off when times get rough.
I'll be honest. I think Megan might be better situated right now.
Look at you trying to get out of it.
Hey, listen, we moved back into y'all's house and we just add an addition. That's how we make it work, right? Or we go out to the farm and take over some of those houses.
I was going to say, we got plenty of houses.
Most work can be done online now. So, I mean, go out to a farm. And the only issue out there is, man, I don't know what the kids are going to do like when it comes to friends.
They're going to do exactly what I did.
Hey, take the dirt bike and go 7 miles down the road to find your friend.
Forget the friends, man. I went right down the road and went fishing.
Well, that's where maybe having a bunch of kids is the key, right? That way they have like some friend group there.
Well, what happens is your friends from school come and spend the night, and then you got somebody to fish with and hunt with and hang out with. So your weekends, you got them at school, you got them hanging out on the weekends, and then occasionally you go to their house. But the fishing ain't as good at their house, so you try to always get them to come to yours.
I think that's maybe a particular situation there.
You mean that's not universal?
I don't know. All my friends always came over to our house, so.
That was because of the barbecue. That's a whole nother separate thing.
Yeah. Cook good food, and also y'all just kind of gave us our space, so everyone was happy.
I love the fact that all of the friends came here because I knew where everybody was.
You didn't have to worry about us out drinking.
I knew what everybody was up to, and I love to cook for a lot of people, so it was all good for me.
Yeah, you're like, all right, so at least I know they're not out, underage drinking or driving, any of that stuff. They're just instead eating tons of barbecue and playing video games. Cool. All right, this is fine.
Yeah. And knocking each other silly in the fake boxing ring.
And then, of course, when we did go out underage drinking, I tried dropping in on a bowl on a skateboard and ended up breaking my ankle and my elbow. So, I mean, I learned my lesson there. I'm not exactly sure if I ever told Mom I downed a beer right before doing that. Good times. Here's the thing, though. Is a lot of stuff going to be available for like my kids growing up? I'm not sure.
Depends on where you live.
Yeah, I'll say when people get the cops called on them for their kids playing in their front yard these days, like, tough situation.
And you may have to move to the free state of Florida. We might all have to.
I love what they're doing in Florida. DeSantis just banned lab-grown meat, so I mean, hey, I'm loving what they're doing over there. I don't like the climate. I don't want to be there.
Can you get raw milk in Florida?
I'm not sure, actually. You know, I'm going to pull it up real quick before we go offline here because I want to know that question. Florida raw milk. Let's see. Is raw milk legal in Florida? It's not illegal to drink raw milk in Florida or any other state in the U.S., but it is illegal for anyone to sell anything besides pasteurized milk, and then according to Florida. So no, raw milk is not legal in Florida. Sad to say.
So Heavy D still got some work to do.
Yeah, man, we gotta get the hey, you know, the right's becoming the side of like the naturalists now, right? It's no longer the leftist crazy hippies. Now we got the country hippies, which I love. So, but I do wonder real quick.
Never thought we'd have right-leaning crunchies.
Well, I won't consider them crunchies when they're like instead saying we'd eat more red meat, more eggs,
And real meat.
Again, you should check out that guy, Raw Egg Nationalist. He's a good one to follow on X. I
guess you could move down to, well, the climate's the same, but my niece down in Alabama is kind of living that farm life dream.
So here, I will say this. Raw milk seems to be legal in West Virginia. Just saying. Mountains. Sounds like a lot of fun. Got some snowboarding up there. I like snowboarding.
West Virginia is a beautiful state, man. It's underrated for its natural beauty.
We only drove there. I forget why we were driving there together, but I remember we drove through there once. It was absolutely beautiful. I would love to go by there again.
You didn't see many of the best places. You
no, we just drove through it. I know we drove through the capital, I think, as well.
Yeah, it was on 6. So it's just 64. We drove through going to Louisville.
It was beautiful, though. Yeah, so you hear that, everyone? You know, don't worry about Florida. Go to West Virginia for raw milk. I'm not sure if me saying drink raw milk is a medical claim. I don't know if I'll get in trouble for that one.
Well, you're not saying it does magic or anything. You're just saying you like raw milk.
I'm saying it just tastes really darn good, okay? Like, it is delicious. And I can't have pasteurized milk, I should say. It destroys my stomach. Raw milk, no issue whatsoever. Same thing with my son. So, just throwing that out there. But all right, it's like midnight, so I think we're going to call it.
Stick to the lactate.
Do what?
Stick to the lactate.
It's like $7 a gallon.
Yeah, I know. But it lasts for like 2 months. I don't understand the difference. You take the lactose out and you can keep it in your refrigerator for
there's something wrong with it, man. I'm telling you, there's something wrong with it. There has to be. Milk should not last that long. It tastes great and it sits well in my stomach. I love it, but there's something wrong with it, I'm telling you. All right, well, hopefully we'll be on next week. We'll see. Hopefully there's nothing else crazy popping off, but either way,
I may or may not be. Friday, you know, I'm speaking at a graduation.
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm gonna go talk about how good privilege is.
There we go. That's what we need to hear.
At the private school.
Well, if not, it'll probably be just me then, and which means it will probably only go on for like an hour because we spend 1 hour talking about the stuff and then another hour just going off the rails. So,
well, it'll depend on if I do the prep that I'm supposed to do leading up to Thursday night, or am I in old crap mode? I don't know I don't know how to really put this together in my head yet.
All right, so hopefully on Thursday we'll see. All right, well, hope everyone does well. Tune in next Thursday. Clips will be going out